In the news, director Ava DuVernay and DC Warner are teaming up to bring DC Comics' The New Gods to life on the big screen. Link for the Hollywood Reporter article in the show notes below. The fact that DC Warner is bringing The New Gods to the big screen is pretty exciting news for comic book fans. For everybody else, you might be confused as to what exactly The New Gods are. We'll get into that here in a little bit, but it's pretty exciting news to see that they're going in this direction to kind of build out the world that they introduced in Justice League. So Justice League introduced characters as well as items from this series, from the New Gods series, and it was a big factor in the Justice League movies. Steppenwolf, the main villain, comes right from this world. The mother box that he's searching for comes from this world. The parademons that are kind of flying around that we meet when Batman finds one right at the beginning, this all comes from the New Gods world. So if you aren't familiar with the characters and the storyline, etc., you've already been introduced to them because of the Justice League movie, assuming you've seen the Justice League movie, which I hope you have because it is available on DVD and Blu-ray. If you're curious about that film in particular, I'll go ahead and throw the card up right here for my Justice League review, and you can check that out once you have a second. But let's get back to this news that Ava DuVernay is directing a New Gods film. So very much in the vein of like Greek mythology, you have these two twin planets, New Genesis and Apocalypse. And on one planet, it's, green, lush, everything like that. On the other one, it literally looks like a hellscape. And you have these kind of demigods that overrule and oversee everything. One being High Father, who rules over New Genesis, and the other being Darkseid, who rules over Apocalypse. And if you want more information, I threw a link in the description box below from DC Comics. It gives you a really quick breakdown of the New Gods. Basically what it's called is New Gods 101. So go ahead and click that link and follow along as we kind of go through this right now. So High Father is the ruler of New Genesis, right? He promotes tolerance and justice. He's trying to stop Darkseid and all of his minions on Apocalypse from taking over the universe and enslaving humanity and enslaving everybody, right? And just getting rid of the free will and people's right or aliens' rights to choose. So that's kind of where he comes in. He has this connection to what's called the Source, which is this energy force. It's almost like if the New Gods had a god, it would be the Source. And then you have characters like Metron, who's just out there gaining experience and wisdom with his use of the Morbius chair, which can also travel dimensions and through time. Characters like Granny Goodness, Big Barda, which is one of Ava DuVernay's favorite characters in DC Comics, as she has tweeted about. So it's nice to see that she's coming on board to a franchise and to a storyline that she is already very, very much a fan of, which could actually help. Being a fan doesn't mean that you're going to make a great film, as we've seen with other movies before, but it does help that she's already familiar with the source material, and hopefully she can kind of build on that existing lore that's already in play. And then Mr. Miracle, who also right now has his own comic book series, so if you enjoy reading comic books and you haven't started reading Mr. Miracle, definitely recommend you check that out. So you have all of these different characters with these different names and different responsibilities, but what it really breaks down to is you've got a ruler over here, Darkseid, who's trying to enslave the universe, and you have High Father who's trying to prevent that from happening. There's a lot of cross that goes back and forth between these two guys and their worlds. Obviously, we hear about Darkseid in the Justice League movie. Obviously, Steppenwolf coming from Apocalypse. We heard about Apocalypse in Justice League. There are already the foundations laid in the DCEU, so it's not really a stretch that they want to kind of branch out and build on this world. And when you have someone like Ava DuVernay come in who did Selma and then who did A Wrinkle in Time, you have someone, and who is a big fan of Big Barda, who's one of the characters from the New Gods series. You have a director who can see the importance and the value of the human struggle and then translate that to film like she did in Selma. So will she be able to do that as far as like trying to make the characters in this series relatable and believable? Will Mr. Miracle play a big part of it, since he's one of the sons of High Father and he's stuck on Apocalypse being tortured and enslaved? Will that play into it? Will his struggle of trying to come out of that and get free be part of this? We could see her really dive into these human, relatable topics and really build them out. So to see her kind of visually bring to life these characters, and then knowing that she can carry the themes of like social injustice and like trying to fight against oppression and fight against like one ruler who wants to enslave everybody, to see her bring that ability of storytelling to this story with her visual ability for storytelling, as far as like making things look fantastical and vibrant and alive, as well as dark and scary and ominous. I really think this is a great pick for her, and I'm excited to see more, especially with casting, kind of as we get closer and closer to production actually beginning for this film. Comment below with your thoughts, and let us know what you think about the New Gods, as well as the new Mr. Miracle comic series, out right now at your local comic book store. Key and Peele are teaming up for a stop-motion animation feature entitled Wendell and Wild, according to Variety. Link for the article in the description box below. Last week we talked about how Michael Bay was going to be directing a film that is going to be a brand new, fresh IP. It's a new idea. We're not rehashing, we're not rebooting or anything like that, right? So we got excited about the fact that it's a brand new story, brand new characters, etc. This is that same thing. Brand new characters, brand new story, fresh IP, not rebooting, not reimagining, not rehashing, right? Something fresh, brand new that we can be excited about. So what is Wendell and Wild? Since it's brand new and we know nothing about this already because it doesn't exist yet. I'm glad you asked. Like where your head's at. Let's talk about it. So in the article in the description box below, if you want, go ahead and click on that, expand that description box, hit the article, and you can follow along as we talk about it here. But in the article, it talks about how it's a pair of demon brothers who have to face up against their arch nemesis in order to earn their way out of hell. And this is going to be a stop motion animation feature. So already I am intrigued by this because it sounds like it could be a little bit of mischief when you have these two demon brothers trying to earn their way out. Clearly, they've had enough of their situation and they're like, look, we got to get out of here. And when you have Key and Peele as the voices for these brothers, I think you're already setting it up for a really good comedy and a really good time, where you're going to get a lot of great back and forth between the characters, as well as a great back and forth between everybody that they're interacting with as they try and stop whoever their arch nemesis is so that they can get out of their current situation, which is hell. So I'm curious to kind of see like what the first trailer is going to be like. What is this going to look like? What are the facial expressions of these demons? What do the demons look like that they're going to be doing the voice work for? It all sounds pretty spectacular. And they're bringing in a director who is already someone we're familiar with when it comes to stop motion animation features. Henry Selick is coming on to direct, and he is also helping write this story. And he has already done films that we enjoy, like Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas, James and the Giant Peach, and Coraline. So this guy is already familiar with creating these incredible worlds that are very dark and ominous and that have this very unique style to them when it comes to like what the characters look like. And when you're going into a world like hell and you're creating demons, you can really play around with things and really get creative as to how you want this world to look. So you can have all of these very creative and interesting looking beings existing in this world. And when you've already had a success record like this guy has with these other three films, I think we can get excited about what this new one is going to look like because of what he's already done and what he's already given to us. That has really been something enjoyable if you like stop motion animation. Another thing I like about this story is Jordan Peele is actually going to help write this. So not only is he doing the voice work, but he is going to add some of his sensibility and some of his intellect to this story. Now, we saw what he did with Get Out, and we know that he is a really talented writer because of everything that he's done with the Key and Peele show, plus Get Out. So to actually see that intellect come into play for this film, I think could really elevate this and make this something special. Plus, we know, again, with Key and Peele, he has a really great comedic sensibility too. So this might not necessarily be just like the straightforward, like crazy stop motion demons fighting demons in hell kind of story for Netflix. This might actually have some humor to it. There might be some levity in it. And I think that could work really, really well because of his involvement and what he brings comedically to these stories that he helps write. The Josh Trank Al Capone movie, Fonzo, has signed even more talented actors to join Tom Hardy on screen, according to Deadline. Link for the article in the description box below. So the synopsis in the article makes this film sound like it's not necessarily going to be about what Al Capone was like as a gangster coming up through the streets of Chicago, bootlegging booze and stuff like that. It sounds more like it's going to be like towards the end of his career, if I'm understanding what I read right from this article, where he's, you know, kind of losing his mind and he's like having these fits where like all of the dementia's kicking in and he's starting to like deal with the demons that he's buried for all of these years, which sounds like it could be very interesting and very intense. It definitely sounds like it's going to be a departure from your standard gangster flick right during Prohibition and bootlegging booze and everything like that. It could be interesting. I'm curious to see like that first trailer to see like what the tone is going to be. Am I correct in my assumption that this isn't going to be a story about Al Capone coming up through the streets, but more Al Capone like in the twilight of his life, kind of losing his mind and having to deal with like all of the terrible atrocities that he committed as he became the most renowned gangster in American history? Because in the article, it details like who these new actors are going to be and like what their roles are. And what their roles are sound, again, leaning more towards this idea that it's him in the later part of his life. It's going to be like him dealing with the dementia and the torture that he goes through mentally based on all of his sins. So when you have characters like the doctor or his best friend or his wife, his sorrowful wife, like it all, again, it's all leading me to believe that this is going to be happening towards the later years of his life. But it's nice to see people like Matt Dillon, Linda Cardellini, Kyle MacLachlan, and Catherine Narducci step up to the plate. Now, some of these actors obviously we're very familiar with because we've seen them in a lot of movies. Some of them are more famous for what they've done on television. The fact remains they're still talented actors and they're still going to help kind of elevate the supporting cast. So hopefully this film doesn't just feel like the Tom Hardy movie. So go ahead and comment below with your thoughts about this movie, the cast. Are you excited to see Al Capone? Do you want another gangster movie about times during Prohibition? I know I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that the soundtrack or the score of this film, maybe both, really dive into the period, because with Prohibition, you have a lot of some of the best music that America put out with jazz and big band and swing. So I'm hoping that plays an important and crucial part of this film, especially with the speakeasies and that whole vibe that they had with that jazz lifestyle. Can't wait to see more from this film. I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well. Again, comment below, let me know your thoughts. Honorable mentions this week: Dwayne Johnson's Red Notice is scheduled for release June 2020. The Museum of Narrative Art in Los Angeles has broken ground and is set for completion in 2021. Famke Janssen is set to star alongside Nicolas Cage in Primal. Paul Feig is launching a new digital content company entitled Powder Keg. Madonna is set to direct MGM's Taking Flight film about a Sierra Leone orphan turned world-renowned ballerina. And that wraps up the news for this week. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching the news with me, and also leaving your comments below to discuss the news further. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and give me that thumbs up, because the thumbs up helps people who like movie-related shows find this movie-related show right here on YouTube. Hi everyone, this is Jeremy Brunansky, and you've just finished watching the movie news segment. Now, if you enjoyed that, you may want to check out the Certified Rad playlist, which covers something awesome and uplifting that we found, or you may want to go ahead and check out the Special Segments playlist, which covers just a range and variety of topics that I want to dig a little deeper in, but we don't necessarily have time for on the weekly show. We will see you guys next Monday for a brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog right here on YouTube at 10 a.m. PST. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.